Hi friends, if you're like me, you're tired. Or you want to talk about double exposures. If that sounds like you should talk. So I am a big fan of double exposures. I think a lot of us are. What's cool is that they have this like super rich history dating back to the beginning of photography, basically. Even the last known portrait of Mary Todd Lincoln was a double exposure, but it was taken by a specter photographer. There were these photographers that existed that basically swindled people by saying, I can take pictures of people's spirits. And so he superimposed a picture of her that he had taken with Lincoln ghostly sort of like holding onto her shoulders in the picture. And anyway, long history of double exposures, and there are so many great examples that are completely unique and different than the way that I think a lot of wedding and portrait photographers end up using double exposures, but there's also a lot of really cool, unique examples of how that happens too. And so today I wanted to show you how to do them in camera and also how to do them on your computer. I'm sure you already know what they are, but just to tell you literally what they are, double exposures are created by exposing film twice. So you would have an image that you took and then you would just not wind the film or change the film and then you would take another one. And there are lots of really cool, interesting things that you can do with double exposures, like you can shoot on an entire roll of film, wind it back up and shoot on it again and just see if anything lines up to make a bunch of cool double exposures that way. I'm gonna link to some examples of cool double exposures below. And then there's also the long rich history of like 1980s double exposure portrait photography that includes things like having a bride and groom double exposed in a glass. Today I wanted to share with you guys two ways to make double exposures. One is that you can do them in camera if you have a Canon, and also how to do them in Photoshop. So we are gonna do both of those things. Let's start by making them in real time. Today I thought it would be fun for me to show you not just how you can do double exposures, but also some fun things that you might want to experiment with. I'm just going to show you like how I would play, even if the images don't work out. And also I'm going to show you literally how I compose double exposures in real time because I have this thing. I'm going to start by telling you that the images that I have from the wedding that I shot happened on a very rainy day. So I have a bottle of water that I'm just going to spray on these plants and hope that it looks nice and wet, like it was raining. I have multiple exposures saved in my custom menu, so that's where I'm going to go. So I'm going to go to multiple exposure. I'm going to go to continuous shooting. I always choose additive. Number of exposures 2, one shot's fine, select image. And now I'm going to pick the images that I want. You can see I was already sort of playing with these. This is from a different wedding. The ones I want to pull from are here. There's a fire extinguisher on the wall. I did what I could. I had a white wall. So I'm going to choose this one. When I do this, it's going to automatically open up whatever settings were previously on my camera before. As soon as I hit the shutter or like half focus, you can see my images here. This background isn't completely white, but what's cool about me doing a double exposure on this camera is it's going to give me a raw file so I can make that white ultimately more white. Ideally, the only stuff that's going to show up is going to be the stuff that exists where they are black. I'm going to make this darker so that it is blowing out the outside a little bit. Since this is already a dark image, I want my exposure to be a bit dark. And I think I like this for her eyeball. I'm going to hit play. That's what it looks like. I'm going to do it again. The thing about doing multiple exposures is that I mostly am just playing when I'm doing it. I'm going to select another image for multiple exposure. This is the way that a lot of people do it that's more common, is turning it upside down and sort of using the earth and the plants around it to sort of like complete them. So what's going to happen here is that everything white is going to get erased. If I go like this, his face is going to disappear. That's nice. I just want to make sure that their faces are still going to be in it. Maybe I'll turn to the side. Let's try that. I like that one. That one's not too bad. So there are a lot of really interesting, unique, and cool ways that you can do this that don't just include nature, which is why I'm bringing out some aluminum foil. But you can also do things like double exposures using reception lighting, especially if they have things like string lights. Just throwing it out of focus and just creating some bokeh is really interesting. I'm gonna use it to sort of isolate part of my branch. I could also do this with whiteboard. I'm gonna make it quite a bit darker. And it is giving me some interesting textures. I don't know if I like them. Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily like this. I thought it would be fun, but now I'm just not so sure. I'm gonna go ahead and take one, because maybe this will be a lot cooler in black and white. Nope, it's mostly weird. Glad I tried it. And the last one I'm going to show you is the one that you guys are all probably pretty familiar with, and it's when you take an image, you flip your camera upside down, and you try to cut off the rest of their bodies in an interesting way. They're going to have like kind of tentacles. One of my favorites that I've done with ferns, they look like mermaids, so I'm into it. So I'm going to try this. It's interesting. I might do something different. And last one, I promise. I'm just going to shoot up at the sky, and all I want to make sure that I'm doing is that I am isolating them. That way I'm not cutting off huge chunks of their heads or bodies. I just want to make sure that I'm not getting rid of any information that allows them to be recognizable as the people in the image. This is so hard. I think I like that one a lot. So that is how we do a double exposure in camera, but I'm also going to show you how to do it on your computer. I'm also going to link you guys to a great video on how to make double exposures by Sarah Byrne if you guys want to get more into it. And now I'm going to show you how to do that process if you don't have the ability to do it in camera, or if it's just something you guys want to play around with in Photoshop. So here I am in Lightroom. I have a couple different images that I think will work for double exposures, and I'm just going to show you guys how to make a faux double exposure. I'm going to start with one that I've already created before. I'm going to be using this image and this image. So I'm going to select both of those, go to edit in, open them both in Photoshop. It really doesn't matter which image is on top of each other for double exposures as long as you layer them. I'm just going to drag these into the same file. I'm going to go to layer blending modes, and I'm going to go to screen. Here I'm going to move things around. It's my image. I can do whatever I want. Kind of like that. I'm going to go to reveal all. See what that looks like. I like this. Okay. I might double click on the background so I can rotate it and just see if I can do something else. I like rotating it slightly because I think it adds a little bit more movement, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I think I'm going to add motion blur. I'm going to go to filter, blur, motion blur. They're sort of running at that angle, so I'm going to change it like that, and I'm going to make it a little bit less blurry. That looks pretty good. Like that. Cool. And then I have all this extra white space. I'm just going to select it. I'm going to hit Shift Delete and use Content Aware Fill to just fill in the extra area. I might even take this image and just darken it ever so slightly, just so we're seeing a little bit more of that sky. I like that. And then select the bottom part of the image here and just hit Content Aware Fill and see what it gives me. I like that. So this is a double exposure I made pretty quickly in Photoshop, just using the screen blending mode. I'm gonna do another one from the images that we were using before. This is what the out of camera image looks like. I'm just gonna change it up a little bit. I don't want it to be super crisp, but I do need a little bit more solid white than before. So all I did was I reduced the contrast, I brought down the shadows quite a bit, and I brought up the whites. So I'm going to open this in Photoshop. I'm going to try this one. I'm going to edit in Photoshop. So same thing, I'm just going to take these images and layer them. Whenever it's in screen mode, it really doesn't matter which image is on top of each other. I don't know that I love this. I feel like a lot of information is getting lost in their head. I'm just going to try to turn it upside down and see what that looks like. Ooh, I don't know if I love that either. It's kind of nice, the idea of them kissing, being in their heads and sort of upside down. It's kind of weird. I'm going to play with that a little bit more. I think I like that. I don't know if I'm obsessed with it, but I do like it. But if I was going to keep it like this, I would just create a gradient and just sort of like cleaning up the outside. Now that I'm looking at it, I kind of like this. I think this would make a really interesting black and white image. I am going to save it. You guys, we made a double exposure. So this is a real image. This is a real image. This is a Photoshop double exposure where I used multiply. I really wanted to do more double exposures on this wedding day, but with all of the images being all white because it was really snowy, it didn't really work, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So like I'll try to combine these two images that are both mostly white. I can try multiply. That looks pretty weird. But if I try screen, it mostly just gets rid of everything. You really need big chunks of black and big chunks of white for it to work. Anyway, I really wanted to make this video to show you different ways for you to play, experiment, but you really don't have to be limited to take pictures in nature. And for it to not be stressful, you don't have to do it on the wedding day. You can always load your images back on a card and go out and shoot on your card later, or you can just do it in Photoshop. I hope this helps. If you guys have any questions, definitely let me know. I hope you're having a good week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.